Hi, I'm Terry Robinson, Executive Editor at SC Magazine, and we're here at the RSA show in San Francisco. It is my great pleasure to welcome Rajiv Gupta. He is the CEO of Skyhigh Networks. Hi.
Hi, Terry. Pleasure to meet you.
Great. It's so good to meet you, and it's good to see you here at the show. It's quite busy.
It is manic more than busy. I guess as security becomes more relevant and important, the importance of shows like RSA increases in importance, and you can see that in the attendance. And attendance and engagement.
Yeah, people do seem engaged this year.
Yeah, they are. And like I said, security is becoming very important in how we operate our businesses. It's becoming important in the C-suite. It's becoming important in the board of directors. It really is becoming a critical part of running a business today.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. We hear it said a lot now that every company is a software company. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I think it's a very interesting way of putting it. But if you take a step, and a lot of people say, "What are you talking about? I'm not a software company." But if you think about it, very many companies, obviously not every company, very many organizations, they have developers, right? Either internal developers or they've contract with developers. They're developing software, right? Now, they may not sell the software. That's not part of what their core business is. But that software they run, they develop, is meant to increase engagement with customers, employees, partners, and so on and so forth. So in some sense, they're a software company, not because they're selling software, but they're developing software, and all of the requirements to secure their software, to maintain the software, are requirements they have to work at. So in that sense, every company really is a software company. Just one very simple analogy, Morgan Stanley is an example. You think of themselves as a bank, which they are. They have 13,000 developers. More developers than most software companies in the Bay Area, right? So they're not a software company per se, but they have to have a lot of the sensitivities that software companies otherwise have.
And they're gathering information and transmitting information, correct?
Correct, yeah, exactly. In banks in particular, but insurance companies, so on and so forth, they really are, their business is information, right? And software is what transforms, translates, use that information. And exactly right. So when the manipulating information is done through software, and that's why they have developers, because their differentiation is in how well they create information and use information through software.
So cybersecurity now has become more than just a buzzword, sort of all the way up the chain. Are we seeing a difference in the makeups of boards and the pressure that's put on them, the expectations?
Absolutely, for a couple of reasons. One of them is that if you look at the commercialization of the bad guys, by that I mean that they are getting organized, they're using tools, very much like the good guys are using tools, the white hat and black hat folks. So we need to make sure that our crown jewels, more and more information-based crown jewels, are secure. We need to make sure our supply chains are secure. As you said, more and more software companies, we need to make sure that we have all of the controls and security that software companies have. And a very good example of that, as you mentioned, Terry, is Myrna Soto, right? She's a CSO at Comcast. She's on the board of directors of multiple companies. And to me, that's a manifestation of how important the role of cybersecurity is at the board level, at the C-suite level, and everything below that. And in many cases, what happens is people think of security as defensive, which in many cases it is. They think of security as slowing things down, right? But I tend to think, and I encourage people to think of security as empowering. Think of security as the brakes in a car, right? One perspective is the brakes in the car to slow you down. I think an interesting perspective is the brakes in the car to help you speed up. If you didn't have brakes, you wouldn't be going very fast at all, right? And I think what we're seeing more and more is people are looking at security as an empowering function. How do I empower the line of business to get their job done faster? How do I empower them to leverage the power of cloud, to be more agile, to be more cost-effective, more productive, my employees to be more efficient? And all of that comes through, brings with it implications and requirements on cybersecurity, and that runs the entire gamut from the front desk all the way to the board of directors.
That's an interesting analogy because, you wouldn't have the nerve to go fast if you knew you couldn't stop.
Exactly. You'll have a Flintstonian point of view, right? You go only as fast as you're pushing your heels against the ground will slow you down.
Right. So, and that brings us, you mentioned the cloud. I've noticed at this show, even in the year since the last RSA, the notion of the cloud has changed the comfort level with the cloud. Is that what you're seeing too?
Absolutely. And again, we have data. So we conduct a survey with the Cloud Security Alliance, and the data is very telling. So let me give you some points of data there. So one of them is today 60+% of security professionals believe that the public cloud is as or more secure than their private data centers.
Wow.
Now, these are security professionals, the guys who are paid to be paranoid, if you will, right? So that's one. The second one is, for the first time, we really think that 2017 will be the tipping point, because for the first time there'll be more custom apps, the apps that people develop, the 13,000 developers in Morgan Stanley, that'll be running in public data centers than in private data centers, right? So that tipping point has come fast, and it's moving really fast as well. So these are sort of indications, and back to the point you raised earlier as well, in terms of companies being software companies. Yeah. Again, the data that we collected tells us that 72% of companies have built an internal application. These are developers that they have either employed or partnered with or contracted with, have developed an internal application that if that application went down, it would significantly impact the business. And conceptually, think about an airline that has an airline reservation system app they've developed, right? If the reservation system went down, they couldn't be running the airline, right? So 72% of companies have those kinds of apps they've developed, going back to the point of being a software company. And a lot of this now is moving to the cloud, is being enabled by the cloud. And I think, like I said, it's a tipping point. But sometimes when the tipping point comes, it comes so fast, right, that you'll see a rush to the cloud even faster than we've seen before.
So next year we'll be talking about what sort of challenges that brings. So thank you, Rajiv, for being here. I so appreciate your time. I know it's busy at the show, and so thank you for taking time to speak with us.
Thank you very much, Terry. It's a pleasure.
Okay, great. So once again, I'm Terry Robinson, the executive editor at SC Media. We're coming to you from RSA out in San Francisco, and this is Rajiv Gupta. He is the CEO at Skyhigh.